Hey, good morning. We are talking about two different things today. It's called a composition of transformations. What happens if I do two things specifically in a row? So, we learned this the other day that if we start this, if we start this, these are two parallel lines. And if I draw a shape, this gave specific measurements, but today that's not a big deal. If I draw a specific shape and I reflect it over that first line, I get a shape reflected and pointing the other way. Now, if I reflect this thing again, but just the reflected image or the image, remember the pre image is here, the image is here. I'm now going to reflect the image over that line. Notice they used A double prime, B double prime, C double prime, since it's the second image reflected. And also notice something special about the lines there. Take a second, see if you can answer that yourself. Hopefully you were able to see that these are parallel lines. So what's happening? We reflected one image twice over parallel lines. We talked about this the other day. Um, this is an example of a composition of reflections. So if I reflect a figure over two parallel lines, it's the same as something else. As take a second, see if you can answer it. It is the same as me translating or shifting, sliding that original pre-image all the way to the right without reflecting. Do you notice how the triangles are facing the same direction? All I had to do was shift it to the right and it will give me that triangle. So to summarize what we just talked about, if I reflect a figure over two parallel lines, two reflections, make sure it reflects twice. That would be the same thing as a translation, either left or right. Okay. So basically, two reflections over parallel lines equals one translation. Okay. I'm going to show you an example on how to do this on Desmos. I would recommend having the video pulled up because you're going to do this exact same thing. This is great practice for us. So go ahead, take a second, pause the video, and pull up the Desmos homepage. We're going to go ahead and go to Math Tools and click on Geometry Tool. So remember what we just said, okay? We said we had a shape. I would not use a circle, use some kind of polygon. The crazier, maybe crazy not the right word. The more interesting you make the polygon, the easier it's going to be able to. You're going to be able to see the what's happening. So we start with our figure, and remember we reflected over two parallel lines. So I need to draw parallel lines. How do I do that? I click on the line button. The first line, it doesn't really matter if it's straight up and down. I'm going to do it maybe a little bit cockeyed. Now, how am I going to make a line parallel to it? If I just eyeball it, this isn't going to work. Okay, so luckily Desmos is awesome. And I can click on more tools. Now I can click on parallel line. It walks me through what to do. Choose a line to set the slope. I want it parallel to here. And now choose a point to set the location. I'm just going to pop it right over here. I'd make it a little bit wider than your shape so that it doesn't go, so that you'll see in a second. So now I need to reflect this thing twice. So go ahead. We are going to, remember this is a transformation. So I click on transform and I want to reflect it twice. So I reflect it. It walks me through what to do. Choose a line of reflection. Remember, we are reflecting over the closer line, and now I select some objects. I want to reflect that whole thing. Boom, one reflection. Perfect. That's one type of transformation. Now, if I reflect this thing again, it should be the same as a translation. So I need to do a new reflection. I'm now reflecting it over this line. Now, should I reflect the original or the image? I should be reflecting the image. Now I just apply to that first one. And as you see, look, if you start with the very original, the pre-image, and you are going to slide it down, it should lay perfectly on top. Now, we should check ourselves. How am I going to do that? Well, now I need to do a third transformation to see if it's legit. So I'm going to translate. We notice it walks you through exactly what to do. Choose a point. I think you just need to pick one of the points on the original figure. Choose a point too. I would do the same exact point over here. You kind of have to eyeball it, which is not awesome. Now it says select some objects to apply. I'm going to select the whole thing and translate it. So this is exactly what we want. What I'm going to have you turn in is a screenshot of this. Make sure this is a unique uh, figure. So you're just going to snip it, snipping tool. Please hear me, to get full points. If you want to get all the credit, what I need you to do is make sure that you have your three transformations on the left. So two reflections, one translation, and then all three figures and both parallel lines in your picture. And go ahead and get your name in the top right corner. That's how you're going to get your full points. The three transformations, both parallel lines, and three figures, and your name in the top right since you signed in with your Google account. And you will submit this on PowerSchool.